o'clock.
If we could start the town council meeting for February 23rd, 2023. We've got Mr. Chuning, who has
Recording in
called
progress.
Mr. Chuning has called in sick this evening. We got everybody else here, so we are good to go. Let's have a call to order. Marjorie Austin,
Here.
Beth Justice,
Here.
Bill Goldsmith is here, Alana Courtney,
Here.
Mary Hanson,
Here.
and Sandy Sturgill.
Here.
If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is the approval of the agenda. Barbara, did you have a specific thing that Garth was going to ask you? He's got the site plan to ask for council to approve. Did you want to have?
I think that Garth can probably handle it all.
Okay. Excellent. So can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second?
I'll second.
Let's have a vote. Marjorie?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
I say yes. Alana?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes. Yes.
Sandy? Okay. Let's start out with the town administrator's report. Ooh. And put your votes on stun, unlike my example.
Too bad I'm not. I lost mine today.
Good evening, everybody. Under the pool committee has been meeting weekly and continuing to make progress. Bay Design has completed the site plans of the project, and they are in the process of being reviewed by town staff, Paddock Pools, the architect, and the contractor for possible revisions. After the review, they will be submitted to the county zoning department and DEQ to begin the permit process. And we do have copies of the site plan here. Mr. Mayor, I would request that council approve for me to sign the documents that was submitted by Bay Design that are to be submitted to DEQ, Middlesex County zoning, and those permits need to be signed and forwarded to them so that they can begin their review.
Right, so to be clear, this is Bay Design's plan for the project that have to be reviewed by DEQ, so it's not a final product yet, and we need to get that moving forward so that we can finish the design part of the project, correct?
Correct.
Could I have a motion to accept those, allow?
I'll make a motion to accept. For
All
Garth
right,
to do that.
second?
Second.
We'll have a vote on that.
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
I say yes. Alana?
No.
Mary?
Yes. Yes.
Sandy, yes, okay. It passes 6-1, or 5-1.
The Urbanna boundary adjustment, at the February 7th County Board of Supervisors meeting, Ms. Arad, our town attorney, who is with us by Zoom, made a presentation regarding our request for voluntary boundary adjustment to the Board of Supervisors. The board voted to have the county's attorney work with Ms. Arad to move this project forward. The properties up for consideration include parcels belonging to the town at the well site, properties belonging to Thurston Properties, which includes this acreage here and this building, the field area owned by Middlesex Volunteer Fire Department, and the property belonging to FL Hall Trust on Waverly Road. The next steps for the county and the town is to schedule public hearings and determine if this request has to be submitted to the Attorney General's office for review, and then be brought back to the council and the Board of Supervisors for both the town council and county Board of Supervisors vote. The sale of Old Town Hall, we have gotten several contacts expressing possible interest of the property. The town has contracted with the Structures Group, which is a foundation engineer company, to conduct a survey of the foundation's soundness. We have not received a specific date for the inspection yet. There was some concern expressed about this about a month ago. As a FYI, a survey was conducted by an engineering company in 2014 on the property, but it did not specifically focus on the building's foundation. Price Properties is handling the sale of this property, and it is listed as a commercial and in the residential MLS as well. Marina/Big Grant, the Virginia Department of Health has granted an extension to our Big Grant funding, and I don't know if y'all are familiar with Big Grant, but it's the boating infrastructure grant program, and it's granted through the Virginia Department of Health. And our grant that we've had for the last several years was due to expire at the end of February, and we submitted a request for an extension, and also requested that those funds be used to make repairs to the main dock at the entrance of the marina for erosion, and to restore the shoreline in front of the marina on the creek, which has been damaged. This work will be done by Docks of the Bay and should be completed by spring. Upcoming events with spring and summer fast approaching. Plans are underway for town events. The Urbanna Business Association is back up and running and planning events for the season. And they have requested to take on the farmers market, which used to be one of their programs. And so they will be hosting the farmers market for the summer. Second Saturdays have started planning their summer Second Saturday events, and they have lined up vendors and are scheduling bands, and they are seeking sponsors for the events and already have quite a few, it's my understanding.
Yes.
Independence Day celebration this year is going to be Friday, June 30th. The contract for the fireworks have been signed. This year's event will follow the same format that we've followed for the past at least several years, and more information will be coming out soon. And this concludes my report. Any questions?
And just to remind everybody, the dates right around July 4th were not only in the middle of the week, but unavailable. And so the decision had to be made as to whether we did it the Friday before or the Saturday after. And we decided by the Saturday after, we were out of the range.
Looking for Labor Day.
The pool goes back to initial work that was done with the site, the site designed by LPDA going back probably 4 years ago. And this current pool committee has been together for 2.5, 3 years at this point, working on trying to get this project finished. The DEQ mandate for the well and the mapping of the water system goes back close to 4.5 or 5 years at
Recording in
this point.
progress.
And all of these things have gone through stages that have been discussed in parts, but there hasn't been a summary. And so for the benefit of the general public as well as to bring the rest of the new council people up to speed, Roy has put together a PowerPoint presentation so that we're all on the same page moving forward. This town is really dependent not only on this fine staff that we have collected, but volunteer groups and committees to try to get some of these things done, because it would be pretty cumbersome to do all of the things that are required with just the council as a whole working as a unit body, or with the town staff doing all of the work in the background. So without further ado, Mr. Keim.
Yeah, I apologize because there's going to be some duplication for things that have been already said and other things that are going to be covered. But it had been staff's intent to have a briefing for new council members on the major projects and the status. We couldn't find a common time to schedule the event before now, so we're doing it now. The problem we have is you hear things in bits and pieces and it's confusing. You hear one thing one week and it's not a conflicting thing the next week, but then you deal with something else and you kind of forget what you heard before. So I put together this little status of major projects, and if you read today's Southside Sentinel, you could see Mr. Chalemi covered 2 of the articles. He did a very nice job. Debbie Price is advertised for the sale of the building. But if we go on major projects, the ones that I plan to cover are well replacement, pool, town hall, marina, lifeline, water line replacements and fire suppression and boundary adjustment. And I put them in this order because this is really the most urgent one is at the top, and they work their way down. So if we start off with well replacement, we were mandated by the Virginia Department of Health to put in 1 new well, and we've got an estimated cost of $1,056,000. We took a survey of the town to determine if we were eligible for grants, and we found that we weren't eligible. Our people made too much money to get grants that we had applied for. But we applied to the USDA for a loan for 40 years at 1 3/4%, and that was approved. But USDA won't release those funds until the well is in place and operational. So we needed interim financing. To do that, we contacted Davenport, who's been our financial advisor for a long time on the Tabor Trust, and they helped us secure an 18-month loan at 4.81% with Huntington Capital, which is due to close around March 1st. All this stuff has occurred. We also are establishing a SNAP account. It's like a money market account that earns 4.2% interest. That money will be dumped into while it's awaiting use by the contractor. So we're going to be earning almost as much as we're paying out in interest. We went for bids for the first phase of the well construction, and the bids were received on February 21st of this year. Councilperson Justice will report on the results, and at the end of her presentation, we should entertain, and she will, a motion to accept the bid and authorize the town administrator to sign the documents that are required. So that's what the history is and what the future is. And that's the way I'm going to go through all these. We looked at the community pool, which is the next thing that's going on. A previous council agreed that we could spend $1.1 million. We've got a general contract, we've got a pool builder, we've got an architect, the site plan design, you've heard about Bay Design doing. The site plan has to be approved by the Department of Environmental Quality. And we did get, as Gar said, the site plan, and we'll review it and we'll go forward. The amazing thing about the Department of Environmental Quality is all they're worried about is stormwater runoff. And it's crazy. I mean, it's a lot of work for water that's been running off for years, but we have to do it in an ordinary, in a plan. To finance the pool, the 1.1 million, we've got Tabor Trust. We have money from them, $500,000. We had a pool reserve of 94,000, and CARES money, half of the CARES money, which is 237,000. So we have, without any fundraising or anything else, we have currently 832,367. So we have to fundraise an approximately $270,000. We were unsuccessful in getting the contribution from the county. Mr. Smith pointed out the should have been a from. We are looking at several institutional contributors for grants. We're offering charter lifetime memberships that will be attached to the real property. We're working with Friends of Urbanna and see, this stuff changes all the time, or the Oyster Foundation to utilize their tax status as a 501c3, which would allow for tax deductible contributions. We've developed a fee schedule that will help cover annual and operating costs. So we're on the way with all that. It keeps developing, but that's where we are. On the town hall, this building, we currently lease suites B and C. I guess we're in B right now. We have a 2-year lease on that, which started January of 2022, and we lease it for $3,336 per month. We have an option to buy this building at the end of the lease. The method of financing would be to use half of the CARES money, just like the pool money, was $237,367. We have a minimum that we expect to get from the sale of the old building of $150,000. Part of the deal was that the seller of this building would buy that building for $150,000 if we couldn't get anybody else to buy it. So that's locked in. Also, all the rent that we have paid for this building over the 2 years would be applied to the purchase price. So we have $467,000 ready to go with that. It leaves a balance of $632,000, and the seller has agreed to finance it at 5% over a 15-year period. So the monthly cost for that balance would be $5,002, but that's offset by rent that we'd get from the front half of this building of $36.74. So our net costs per month for this space would be $1,328.3. And if you're looking at comparable rates, the folks up in front are paying about the going rate, and we're going to be paying, if we thought of paying the $1,300, we'd be paying about a third of what the going rate is. So this is a good deal. Okay, next one, we go to the town marina. Garth talked about the grant that was previously approved to repair the shoreline and the eroded footings, and that work is due to be done. We've got the money to pay for it. We're paying 25% of it, and our piece of that grant should be about $35,000, which we've already got budgeted, and we already have paid, expenses close to that $35,000. So I really don't think it's gonna take us that much more of this 35. I mean, we've been putting money, we've been accruing expenses to repair docks and things like that, so that counts against that 37,000. There is a second grant that we might want to consider, which would be to replace all the fixed docks with floating docks on the north side of the marina as you walk out. The estimated cost for that would be $160,000. The town's piece would be $40,000. We have to do a lot more work on that to see what it would look like. Really, the costs are pretty well defined, but that activity, the second one, would have to be approved by this council or some other council. We can't just go ahead and do that. But last year, during the discussions on the waterfront, it was stated very often that the marina is the crown jewel of the town waterfront properties, and if we're gonna spend money, that's the first place to spend it. That's what that is kind of designed to do. Next thing we have is water line replacement and fire suppression. Estimated cost $7.6 million. The town approved and has received an asset management plan telling us where the pipes are located and when they were installed. In most cases, they were installed in about 1960, so they've met their useful life, and at some point, we've got to do it, replace them. We had a contractor do a cost estimate of the requirements to improve the improvements that were broken down into 5 phases instead of 6. Thank you again, Bill. And the first phase would be ripping up Virginia Street, down Watling Street, down to the marinas. While we are doing that, we would include in that activity a few more fire hydrants for fire suppression. So this is complicated because when we talk to the Department of Health, the Office of Water, we're looking for available grant funding. They don't want us to mention fire suppression. They're in the drinking water business, but it's the same water that's coming down the pipes, so we're gonna do it at the same time. But at any rate, we know that that Virginia Street activity would cost about $1.7 million. So that's the one biggest piece, but that's the one that should be done first, because it's right down the middle of town where all the businesses are, down by your house, which needed a little bit more help than it got. So we're working on that. We're a long way from it, but we are discussing with the, as I say, Department of Health, Office of Water, looking at grant funding for some or all of those, any of those phases. We were told by the Department of Health that an engineering study would be helpful in support of our application, and we talked about that kind of last week, and that it would be very helpful if we had a study, an engineering study to do that, and VDH would pay $45,000 of that study, and that's about what it's going to cost. So we've applied for the grant for the engineering study, which you guys approved last time, and we will need to review and get your approval for any subsequent application for anything for the $7.6 million. But that's a long-term project. You know, you do the Virginia Street first, and then maybe a couple of years later you do Rappahannock and Cross Street. But we have a plan for all of that. And on any of this stuff, if you have interest in it, just come see me. I'll show you what all the documents are. None of it's a secret. The last thing is the boundary line adjustment, and Garth talked about that. and we're trying to get 26 acres added to the town. It's not an annexation, it's called a boundary line adjustment, because we have to have the county agree with it. As Garth said, the private property owners, to be included, all have said that they want to do that, and what is nice about that is it gives the town the ability to control the development of that area. When the land comes in, if it comes in from the county, it'll come in at R1, which is all residential. We have the ability, once we get it, to determine how we want it zoned. If we want some of it commercial, keep some of it residential, you guys figure that out. But we have the ability to do that. If we want, well, we have the ability, as I say, if we want to put townhouses or condominiums back here, or if a developer wants to, not us. It's the last thing I want to do.
Yes, important distinction.
Right. But at any rate, the supervisors have agreed to let us go forward, as Gar said, and maybe the Attorney General has to look at it. If not, we'll just have two different public hearings. The county has to have one, the town has to have one, and then both the county supervisors and the town council would have to approve that. So you guys are gonna get a good shot at that. That's in the future. But it was my intent with this, just to give you all in one piece, the big things that are going on. We got all sorts of other stuff, little stuff going on, you know, the clock got fixed again.
Yeah.
You know, we have other problems, but these are the main ones, and it just put together all at one time. And I apologize to the new board members. We should have done this for you, so that you're not just walking in here saying, huh, what's going on? But that's it.
Thank you,
Thank
Roy.
Does anybody,
Thank you, Roy.
I mean,
And-
as I said, just come see me if you have any questions.
And to reiterate, because I know it was a question, when we did the presentation to the Board of Supervisors, some of the people that were in the crowd there were concerned that their properties were involved and they weren't notified. The boundary line adjustment only involves individuals that more or less approach the town to be included. It has nothing to do with anybody, there's no surprises out there. It really amounts to two people that have said that they would be willing to come in. And what it does is it allows this building and the water tower to then be in town, in the town boundaries, which it is not currently in either case. So that's one clarification I wanted to put out there. Anybody on council have a question? Okay.
I do. I have one little question on the pool that you talked about, the 800,000 that came from the Tabor Fund. That money, I understand, is supposed to be paid back to the Tabor Fund. Is that correct? It's 500.
We are working on a
500.
path to replenish that, yes,
Okay.
yes.
And it's 5.
And it's 500,000 is
Right.
the number.
Sorry, 500.
Yep. And interestingly enough, at the time that it was pulled out, the mutual fund that it was in was actually a few points higher. So it wouldn't have been as available now as it was then, although it's bounced back a little bit. All right.
And can, anyone here wants a copy of this report, we have them available. They'll be back here on the back counter.
I just didn't want you flipping through it while I was talking.
It's already, if you have the packet, it's in there, but if you want another copy.
All right, moving on. Treasurer's report. Now, Michelle.
My report is in the packet. As stated, I sent out the personal property delinquency notices. I have generated some income through collections for that. Just to give everybody an idea where we are, we have some delinquent taxes, personal property taxes, that date back to 2020. And currently, the outstanding amount is around $11,000. The real estate goes back to 2017, and outstanding amount there is $10,183. There's a couple in there that are in the process of selling. Some have told me they're not gonna pay until they sell, but that's where we're at right now with delinquencies. I would like to take this opportunity to, let y'all know that with the interest rates, they were so low, there was really nothing available. Interest rates are now coming up. So I did seek out several local banks, and I'm going to suggest the following, that we close the Urbana Historic Trust. Currently, that's housed at the Truist Bank, formerly BB&T. The account balance as of January 31 was $31,868.44. That account is getting 0.01% interest. The pool replacement fund is also housed at the Truist Bank, and I'm suggesting that we close that as well. That account balance currently is at $594,775.40, again at 0.01%. The CARES local recovery account is actually housed here in Urbana at Premise. This account balance as of January 31st was $475,423.90. I am suggesting that we transfer $237,711.90, which is one half at this point, which included some interest. That half amount is what Roy and them have all talked about, that we pledged towards the pool. What I'm seeking your approval is to relocate these funds to CNF Bank and to be placed in what's called an investor choice account. And they are guaranteeing 3% interest for 12 months. So I would open two accounts titled the same as they currently are, the pool and the historic trust. The premise, we would take those funds and add them to the pool replacement fund. And I would also go ahead and change the cigarette tax payments so that they would remain being deposited to the historic trust, just at the new location. So, it's a little bit of way to make a little bit of interest, because right now we're not getting anything at all. But I'm seeking your approval.
Okay, I'll make a motion to relocate the deposit accounts as presented by your report.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Now, this is kind of a no-brainer. It's what
Yeah,
we need to
exactly.
do.
And actually, the Tabor fund pays only about 3%, the mutual fund that is in. So it's an apples and apples kind of a thing. All right, we'll have a vote. Marjorie?
Yes?
Beth?
Yes.
I say yes. Alana?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
And Sandy?
Yes.
Passes 6-0. Thank you. Finance Committee.
Okay, the Finance Committee met this past Tuesday, and the discussion, we begun discussing the 2023-2024 budget. We will be working on this and bring it to council for review. We hope to hold a public hearing and have it approved before June. The committee also discussed issues brought up by Michelle regarding transferring bank funds into interest-bearing accounts. We're also reviewing other town funds to determine possible options. That concludes my report.
Okay. Water Committee.
Okay. The Water Committee met on Tuesday, February the 21st at 2 p.m. This was a change from our regular time due to the scheduled openings of bids for the construction of well number 6. The committee reviewed and discussed the Water Committee's current list of priorities, which includes coordination with Urbana Volunteer Fire Department for fire hydrant flow testing, ensuring the larger commercial water customers have proper backflow prevention installed on their water meters, and the continuation of plans for water system upgrades. As budget planning begins, the committee will be discussing possible water rate increases. As stated in the beginning of my report, the main purpose of our meeting was the advertised and scheduled opening of bids for the construction of Well 6. Only one bid was received from Toanna Well and Pump Services Incorporated in the amount of $623,000. The engineering estimate had been $700,000, so this bid does come in below budget. The engineer's recommendation from Kimley Horn was received late yesterday afternoon. Copies have been distributed to council, and copies are available on the counter for the public. If you would like a copy emailed to you, please direct your request to the town clerk, Martha. Per the recommendation, bid packages were reviewed, and there were no arithmetic errors or omissions noted. Based on our review, the bid documents from Toanna Well and Pump Service Incorporated are in general conformance with the requirements stated in the invitation for bid. Toanna Well and Pump Service Incorporated has completed several projects in this region similar in scope and complexity as this project, and they possess the experience necessary for this project. The information herein supports the award of this construction contract to Toanna Well and Pump Service Incorporated, the apparent low responsive bidder, with a total bid price of $623,000. Based on this recommendation, I would like to make a motion to accept the bid as submitted by Toanna Well and Pump Service Incorporated to the town of Urbanna on February the 21st, 2023, in the amount of $623,000, and direct the town administrator to sign and execute all required documents pertaining to the construction of well number 6.
Second.
Do we have a second?
A second.
All right. Any discussion?
Are we supposed to have 3 bids, or is that just something we want to do?
We put out a request for bids. They were advertised in multiple locations. Some people showed interest, and so we have fulfilled that requirement in that you can't force people to bid. We put it out there, said what we were required to do. The companies were given their specs in terms of what they were supposed to fulfill. When we had one person that was qualified for the bid, Kimley Horn reviewed that. They had a checklist at the opening that they went through to make sure that they met all the requirements in terms of their certifications and stuff. And so they were really the only player that we got. And based on the fact that
Mr. Mayor, I can also add that because of the population of the town, we are exempt from state law procurement requirements.
okay. Yes, but we asked for anybody to bid, and they were the anybody.
So is that,
Are we assured that that this bid meets the quality requirements of what we need?
Yeah, Kimley Horn, that we.
I think that's what you're saying,
Yes,
but I just
yeah,
feel the need to ask.
Going back, this fits into the stuff that is coming up a little bit later in terms of what the Water Committee has done over the years, but going back, what was that, like 3 years ago, we interviewed, because I know John Gill was still around, we interviewed multiple engineering services for engineering services agreement, and then recommended that certain companies be used for certain projects. H Environmental was giving the mapping because they had a history of doing mapping of military facilities. They couldn't say what, when they showed us examples, they couldn't say where they were, but they did show us what they did. And then Kimley Horn, for reasons that I don't think I should say, was what we thought was the best company to go with respect to the oversight for the drilling of the well. And so Kimley Horn has shepherded us through this entire process from the initial design requirements to the site location to making sure that the secondary, the next well that we drill was in a proper location for the land swap that we did up on the hill behind the tank. And they were the ones that did the oversight for the bidding process, and was Scott Funk, right? Was here as the representative of Kimley Horn, so that when that bid was opened, he was there and he had a checklist where he went
Right.
through the document
Right.
to verify that the things that he was looking for in terms of qualifications and requirements
And he
were
says
checked
it
off, and he
supports
went through
the
the check
award.
and said, we're good
Okay.
here, now I'll start putting the package together, because
Okay.
it's like, I don't know, it's a large document that has to be done in triplicate.
And the bidding documents required a performance bond, so these people are gonna have to put up a bond.
Okay,
That if they
good.
don't do it,
Good.
we go back against their bond, their liquidated damages
Good.
provisions. You know, so this is a big deal.
It's a
Okay,
big deal.
okay.
It's a big deal. And Kimley Horn is there for the oversight, so we have an engineering service agreement with this
Right.
company, that's what they do, is this kind of project.
Well, Toanna
And-
Well
and-
also does geothermal, and they put all the geothermal heat into York High School, too, so.
Yeah.
And all of the bid documents and requirements were sent to council.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Okay, any other discussion?
I wanted a clarification from, if you have, I thought it was required that you got 3 bids on things. So you're saying that we don't have to have 3 bids because of the size of our town?
Yes.
So
But we
if
would've-
building, anything we do as far as building goes, like the pool, for example, we would have to have 3 bids?
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay.
But can I clarify on this? We typically, whatever we do, we look for at least 3 companies.
Yep.
And because of COVID, we have had trouble finding folks that wanted to do some of the bidding processes.
understandable.
For our stuff, but it is our policy, because I work for the state procurement, and we try to go with at least 3 bids.
Right, and we put it out there. It's not like we didn't say, let's just get in the yellow pages and find a well driller. We put it out there in the typical fashion with advertising in the professional areas, and Kimley Horn helped the oversight of that as well. We just had one person show up. We were a little panicked that nobody was gonna show up, in which case, I don't know what we'd do, because I guess maybe we would ask for some relief from DEQ because nobody wanted to drill our well, but this is a project that we're required to do. Some of the things that we're talking about here are nice to haves. This is one that we have to have. And so, anybody else?
Did they know they were the only ones when we accepted?
Well, no, because they were bids that they had to be at the office at 2:00 on the 21st, and nobody knew who was there or what was coming. And so, when only one person showed up, they were pretty much assured that they were going to get it. But
And if you look at the fact that their bid was $623,000, and we had anticipated $700,000, they left $77,000 on the table.
Right.
I mean, not
Right.
that it was on the table, but they could have gone up
right.
more than
No,
they
they didn't. It was a sealed bid, and they didn't know that number.
Uh-huh.
They'll probably read it in the paper now, but but
No, we told them.
yeah, okay, all right, all right. So, then we already moved and seconded, right?
Yes.
Marjorie,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
I say yes. Alana,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
and Sandy.
Yes.
Okay. That's the Water Committee public comment. We got anybody for public comment? Mr. Andy Anderson?
Thank you for letting me speak. Mr. Andy Anderson, 15 Watling Street, Urbanna Boatyard and Marina. I have a few things to touch about. First of all, on the comments that Roy had mentioned, I think the dock estimate is a little light on replacing the floating docks. Just as a comparison, the work that you have at hand now, restoring the shoreline and whatever is $160,000. I find it hard to believe for the same cost you can remove 15 docks, demo them out, and put in all new floating docks for the same cost. Just a heads up on that. Typically, what I've understood from docks of the bay and what have you, and this doesn't include demo, $100 a square foot for a dock. So you got that whole bulk, you got the whole pier, and then all the finger piers that have to be replaced and pilings. I think you're not even half at 160, in my humble opinion. The other thing I observed was on the water committee, I thought it was sort of interesting. I think, I mean, they're both really needed and I understand that. But, and I'm beginning to really love the Department of Health because they got this grant money for marinas and what have you. That's pretty cool stuff. But, so they declined the well based on supposedly we have too high of an income per capita. I don't know how they know that. I mean, nobody asked me for my income. But so they declined the well for $1 million, and then we're trying to dance with them on the $7 million for the water pipe. And, you know, so my point is, if they're going to dance with you on the $7 million, maybe you get them to dance with you on the $1 million. That was sort of an interesting option.
The census data, was that the only one? Because I can hold it.
I know.
Okay.
So those are my general comments. The real reason I wanted to come in, and I'm going to step in the proverbial litter box on this one, is I have a real cat problem at the marina. And I say this, I'm very passionate about animals and what have you, but the hard facts are is I've lost at least two clients due to damage on their boats. I've got a third one that's hedging. They are damaging boats. They are entering boats. People are having to professionally get their boats cleaned. I've had well in excess of $5,000 in damage to boats from being clawed. So I would like to have some sort of a forum. Maybe this isn't the venue, but it's you know, cats have respect for life, but so do businesses. This is really impacting the business, and I think I actually own part of the problem. And I don't know what the outcome's going to be. I have a tenant that supposedly is feeding 4 cats, but in reality is feeding upwards of 15. It's been observed by many people, and I don't know what it is, but I do ask publicly, you know, if you can put out, please stop feeding cats on our property, because that is the one thing. And I don't mean to sound snide about this, but they're not feral if they're fed and named. They are not feral. They're pets. And that's just the reality of it. It is becoming a real problem. A real problem. And I mean, I've got pictures of the damage and many people that are upset about it. So I know people are passionate about the cats. I know it's a very touchy subject. Historically, it has been, but it is impacting our business, and I'm right in the epicenter of it. So my final comment, I would like to have a meeting somehow to come up with a proactive resolution to this.
Time.
Yeah.
Time's up. Yeah. 3 minutes.
And I
You're
would
good.
also like to say that Urbanna is a bird sanctuary, and I have noticed a big difference in sitting on my porch, listening to birds 15 years ago and listening to them now.
Yeah, I
And
mean.
I love the cats too, and I
it-
love what everybody does for the cats. It's wonderful, but
Right,
it
and-
is really a problem. And now that I hear this from you, that's even more than just the normal problem.
There's no question that feral cats have an impact on bird populations. No question
It's
about
the
it.
#1 killer of birds.
Right.
Thank
And
you.
Andy's exactly right, and I think we need to address that.
When it comes to the income survey, the water committee actually had one available, and there was, I can't remember how long, was that like a 3-week period or something that? For the median household income, but that came from census data, and we absolutely didn't make it with the census data. And what we did was the water committee put together a survey. There was a guideline that we used that Bill and I actually went out on a Sunday and tried to go door to door to hand some out. I apologize if we missed you, but they were also available and advertised. The goal was, because the MHI was based on their, what do you call it, geographic location of an area, we decided we would just go with water customers in town, and we were close, but we were like $1,000 off or something like that in terms of where we were.
Mr. Rett, those surveys were mailed to every water customer. And
That's
I
right. I
have
forgot
all
that.
I'm the only one that has all the results. I can show you the data and show you how many responses we had and how many we didn't. So, but yeah, it was 2 years ago.
And the number.
It was 2 years ago.
The number, it had to be under $47,000 for household income.
Yeah.
I know I'm not allowed to why would they even entertain us for the $7 million pipeline work?
It's a different part of, it's a different part of, a pot of money. And the parameters that they use to judge it. I mean, you see really stupid, just as an example, not to take a lot more time, but I was telling Roy and Garth, I went to that Middle Peninsula Planning Commission thing last night, and there's a creek that silts in every year, and there's funds to dredge it. There's an engineering project that they could do, that they could build a structure that would prevent it from silting in, but you can't use the dredging funds to do the structure to prevent it from ever happening again. So the government is more than happy to dredge it every year rather than fix it one time and not have to dredge it again. So when you say, you know, how could they fund this and not that, I can show you example after example, the more you get into this stuff, as to how that happens. So, all right,
Can I say something about the cats?
go ahead.
We had a lady a few years ago, she got a grant to catch all these cats behind the drugstore. And she came over my house, caught 7. And of course, they cut the ear off, we got them all fixed. But maybe we need to get somebody to go there where Andy is, to get some of them cats. I mean, it's an idea.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
better than
no.
nothing.
Thank
Can I say, I've talked with Suzanne Cacciola about this issue, because I have at least 10 cats on my property, and it's spring, so there are gonna be more now. And we've talked about it. Part of the problem is that they don't have the volunteers,
Right.
the volunteer labor to catch and take them to have, you know, they're not vaccinated, many of them are not spayed or neutered, and HIV tests and all of that, they haven't had those. They don't have the personnel to do that.
Right.
One thing that I saw on Facebook is, I think it was Virginia Beach has a mobile, has a mobile van or.
Spay neuter.
Yeah,
Neuter van.
spay neuter van that goes out, that localities, I think Onancock hired them to come to Onancock and do that. So I don't know, but it's a known issue. I'm not sure what the answers are. I don't have the damage you have.
Can I put my 2 cents in?
That's right, you're
Real
part of
quick?
that.
I'm part of the Urbanna Cat Project, and I know they're rough. I know they're everywhere. We're underfunded, under-volunteered. A lot of us, we don't even have enough traps. We're helping even people outside of Urbanna because we just want to help everybody. But a lot of the problem that none of us can control is that people are dropping cats. They're bringing them into town because they think they're going to find a home here, and they drop them, and they're not fixed. A lot of times they're sick, or they don't want to pay for them to be spayed or neutered. They're cute when they're kittens, and then they're done with them. And there's a lot of people that call us to say, I saw somebody dropping out of a car, or I heard the car come down our lane. And so I don't know how you control keeping them out and being dropped, especially around the restaurants too and stuff. I guess they think they're going to eat out of the dumpsters. But we work with other people in other counties and Deltaville, and we need more volunteers. We would like more help, but you really can't just go catch them and kill them. I mean, that's just not really legal. So I'd be willing to sit down, I'm sure Suzanne would, and if we could just get some help, we could help to
When you say get
control
help,
it.
if I volunteer, what do I have to do?
Feed
You
them.
would have to catch it's not a fun or easy job. They go into great distress, but we have several vets that we work with, and we do get their shots, we have them fixed, and then we have to release them and we try to find barn cats homes, and we house a lot of, and we find homes for a lot of cats. We're working our butts off, but we can't control the people dropping them. That's my main point I wanted to bring up.
It seems to me like relocation would be a consideration in some form, because you can fix every cat.
Right,
It's
you're
still
not
gonna go
supposed,
on
it's
the
like a
fence.
raccoon or.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
'Cause
that's
they-
true.
they-
Fixed cat or not a
they can
Right,
live for
exactly.
10, 15 years.
And then that doesn't fix the problem of the damage and all of that. They're just fixed cats at that point.
All I can tell you is to put up more fences or something, maybe, I don't know. That won't even work it, but
Yeah.
you can't control the flow.
All right. Moving on.
Okay.
Old business. Do we have any old business? Is that a no?
Sounds like a no.
Okay. New business. Garth?
The trolley, a lot of people know, the town trolley operates from Memorial Day through Labor Day, Friday through Sunday, with various stops in the town, and it goes out to Bethpage Campground. And in the past, prior to 2019, the town has paid a portion of the operating cost for the, and members of council, y'all should have a sheet that I put on the counter in front of you that has a breakdown of the cost of what it costs to operate the trolley, which is $23,897, and then the federal and state provides assistance for that at $15,582, and leaves a local match at $8,315. And in 2019, Urbanna paid the local match. In 2020, COVID hit and the trolley did not run. And in 2021, the local match was paid by Bay Aging from CARES money that they had received, so we didn't pay anything for the trolley costs at that time. In 2022, the local match was billed at $8,315, and that has not been paid, and we didn't get the bill until a few days ago. And so we've also gotten a bill for 2023. So the question is, and we've contacted Bay Aging, and I think the gentleman that was heading this project up, I think he was elevated, right, Michelle? He was promoted, and he was new, and he said that he failed to send the bill out to us last year, and was deeply apologetic, and said that he would work with us however he could. But the fact remains that two things. We're going to have to come up with, or we need to decide what we're going to do about paying last year's bill, and then the fiscal impact for 2023 is $8,615.
Yeah. Am I right in remembering that we did have a slight surplus in last year's budget when all was said and done? So, with
We
that
have the
surplus,
money, yeah.
we could certainly cover last year's. I know this year is, Sandy